and the precautions that must be taken. And then we'll be joined by a person of interest this morning, an author whose writing is meant for those navigating the emotional, mental and spiritual complexities of modern life, but not in a usual way. She's penned her thoughts in a very unique way by reimagining our ancient texts. We'll not give away too much. Let's take you through the top headlines first up. Yes, we're going to be talking about what's making headlines in Kerala, the brain-eating amoeba, the dangers that come with it. Do remember the death toll has reached 18 in the state. The infection moves from your nasal passage to the brain with a rapid speed. Children, adults, everyone among latest victims in the state. Authorities have warned against bathing in stagnant water. We'll talk about the cure there, the possible solutions and how the government is on high alert as this rare amoeba spreads. And then we bring in the author of Life is a Battlefield, the Bhagavad Gita for modern chaos, eternal wisdom meets daily struggles here. Priya Arora joins us this morning in the studio on Breakfast Club. And then we'll go across to a very special report from Goa. We'd spent a few days there. We managed to catch up with Goa's Pink Force, all-woman force, taking to streets, doing this wonderful job inside the patrol that watches Goa, body cams and beats, all of this coming up in just a bit. Well, first up, many have been talking about this story already, but we wanted to look at it carefully, not as alarmists, but with facts. Kerala has now reported 67 confirmed cases of an infection caused by what is popularly called the brain-eating amoeba. 18 lives lost this year itself, including children, teenagers, even the elderly. In fact, just last week, a 17-year-old student from Thiruvananthapuram was diagnosed after swimming in a tourist village pool in Kozhikode. A 49-year-old man, a 9-year-old girl, both died after rapid onset of symptoms. Even infants have been affected. Pools have been shut as a result, samples tested, advisories issued. So what exactly is this infection? Let's try and simplify the story for you before we go across to our experts. The organism is Nalgeria fowleri, a free-living amoeba found in warm fresh water. It's called a brain-eating amoeba because once it enters the body through the nose, it travels along the olfactory nerve and then attacks your brain tissue. This leads to an almost always fatal illness known as primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. It thrives in warm stagnant water, lakes, ponds, poorly treated pools, also wells, even domestic storage if not cleaned. And most importantly, you cannot get it by drinking contaminated water. The entry of this amoeba happens only when water shoots up your nose, while swimming, while bathing, or even during nasal rinsing with unsterilized water. The symptoms progress frighteningly, very fast: fever, severe headache, nausea, stiff neck, confusion, and then eventually seizures and then coma. That's how it progresses so worryingly. Globally, survival rates are less than 5%. In Kerala, detection has been quicker. That's what is being claimed by the doctors. Doctors are now intervening on an earlier stage with aggressive antifungal and anti-parasitic drugs. But the battle is still uphill. The state government, led by Health Minister Veena George, has also issued urgent water safety advisories. So we will talk about that one reaction that's come in, but let's also talk a little bit about how pools, water parks must maintain chlorine levels. Wells have to be disinfected. These are things that can be done. Home tanks should be cleaned up properly. People have been warned not to let water enter the nose when bathing in uncertain sources. Testing labs have also been strengthened with PCR facilities for quicker confirmation. The big worry is that the number of cases this year is far higher than usual, and in some patients there's no obvious swimming or pond exposure. What then explains them landing up in this situation? This also suggests that domestic water could also be a risk. So this morning we decided to simplify the story for you, really take you through the details. How serious is this outbreak? What must ordinary people do to stay safe? Joining me now is Dr. Sameer VK, Assistant Professor of General Medicine at Government Medical College, Kozhikode, who's been directly treating patients. I do want to first up come to you, Dr. Sameer. Good morning. Thank you for taking out the time, speaking to us here on the Breakfast Club. A very important story, Dr. Sameer, which is being spoken of across the country. It's not a new phenomena. When I did my little research, I came across several explainers, a lot of study that's been done on this, and particularly because there's very little with regards to treatment that's come out. So tell us the dangers that this brain-eating amoeba carries, and what is the latest situation in Kerala? How critical is the situation right now? We're talking about 18 lives lost already.
Yeah, good morning. Actually, as already described, there has been an increase in number of brain-eating amoeba, or called the Naegleria meningoencephalitis. For the last 2 years, we have been seeing a bit number increase compared to the previous years. And the most danger part of this disease is the chance of mortality is high. The death rates are quite high compared to any other infection, especially from the literature which is available from outside India. But regarding the spread of infections, it's not that alarming because there is no human-to-human spread. That is the positive point. So there are some very important risk factors like swimming in a contaminated wound or any such situations only give the risk of infection. So the number of infections are expected to be quite low. But when one person is infected, the chance of death rate is very high. But as I already described, compared to the previous literature from all over the world, we are having a less number of deaths and the death rate is quite low here. Maybe because of a fast detection and an early initiation of treatment. These are the two positive points which I can tell about the brain-eating amoeba now.
Surely, Dr. Sameer, we do want to focus on the positive aspects to this story. We don't want to sound as alarmist. We don't want to spread this fear that surrounds just the sound of a brain-eating amoeba. But Dr. Sameer, it's also important for you to tell us right now, since you're treating some of these patients in Kerala, since you're closely associated with this entire story from the state, tell us a little bit about the symptoms. How soon do patients start showing these symptoms? When should they reach out to a doctor for help? When is the best time that some of these symptoms can be picked on and earliest treatment can be provided? Of the experience you've had treating this.
Yes, it's almost same for all meningoencephalitis. The name itself indicates an infection of the brain. So the symptom starts with fever usually, and most of them have a severe headache followed by vomiting. And 3 or 4 days later, they develop some sort of abnormal behavior, a sleepiness, and then most of them develop a seizure-like activities, and then they lose their sensorium, like they become unconscious or comatose. And that is the usual course of illness. And here we are talking about the Naegleria predominantly, because that's the most dangerous one, which is having a very short course of illness. So the symptom starts within 4 or 5 days, and all this progression of the symptoms also take place only within a couple of days. And usually the chance of complications and death, everything is very high in Naegleria. There are also some other less dangerous amoeba called like Acanthamoeba, and there are so many other names also, which may have a longer duration, of course, which may start with a fever and headache, and which may last for 2 to 3 weeks time, and the complications also quite slow, and they have a completely different course. So the things which I talked just now is mostly about the Naegleria, and what we should advise the people is whenever they have a fever followed by a severe headache, that is the first time they should seek a medical help. And from the health workers' point of view, whenever you suspect a meningoencephalitis, like a fever, headache, vomiting, and neck stiffness, etc., usually we keep a possibility of virus and bacteria. That is how we used to manage a few years back. But now it's not. I don't think this thing will be restricted to Kerala only. Most of the states of India, also can have such an infection there, which they may be missing. So I would like to advise any health worker who is managing a case of meningoencephalitis to keep a differential diagnosis of amoeba also. And whenever they do a cerebrospinal fluid study, that is how we diagnose meningitis. We take a CSF sample, and by doing a lumbar puncture, and we do investigations on that fluid. And whenever we do this, we have to look for an amoeba also. That is how we diagnose. And early diagnosis and early treatment may be very crucial in a case of amoebic meningoencephalitis.
Dr. Shamir, you're telling us the other things that need to be looked at from a healthcare point of view. The long-term picture, perhaps, that we need to draw out, how we need to zoom out at the end of this entire story. But you also spoke of how this is not a Kerala alone phenomena or problem. But why are we looking at all these cases, 60 plus infections limited to Kerala right now? Is it a certain environmental conditions? Is it factors like backwaters, for instance? So freshwater bodies, that's adding to the problem, because there are cases, surprisingly, that have come to the fore which show no sign of contaminated pool exposure also. What explains these cases that you've come across?
Yeah, definitely. Can you see me now?
Sir, we've lost your video. We could see you earlier.
What?
Yeah.
1 second.
Okay, but we can hear you, Dr. Shamir, and I think we can see you as well now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the disconnection. So actually, we had a few cases, a couple of cases as a cluster from Trivandrum. That is how we all started thinking about this differential diagnosis, and we routinely started doing a amoebic test also in all our suspected patients. So that made a big difference. And now what we think, when we think of retrospectively of about our cases, maybe we were missing few cases before also, because it was not a routine to look for amoeba in any suspected meningoencephalitis cases. But now, in any cases of this kind of presentation, fever, headache, altered sensorium, etc., we are doing a cerebrospinal fluid, and we are looking for amoeba, and we are picking more cases. And I can quote an example, a patient who came from Tamil Nadu. He was also treated there with the same diagnosis of meningoencephalitis, and this test was also done, but amoeba was not looked for from there. The same patient who later came to us, and the first test we did was again looking for amoeba in the CSF, and we could find an amoeba, and we are treating him as amoebic meningoencephalitis. So it's actually the health workers' point of view also, there should be a high index of suspicion to pick up more cases. So the other part, why we are getting more and more, maybe as you already pointed out, maybe it's a climatic change, because these amoeba prefer a warm water. So an increase in the environmental temperature and more contaminated fluid water, which is favorable for the growth of this amoeba, all may be contributing to a flourishing amoeba in water. At the same time, the more diagnosis and more picking up of cases also may be contributing to the increased reporting of cases.
Okay. Dr. Shamir, tell us a little bit about this one amoeba we're talking about. So deadly, spreads so rapidly, so devastating for your brain. Let's get into the brain a little bit. If you can help us understand this as simply as possible on how is it that this amoeba doesn't harm you as much, if you get infected, let's say via your mouth. But if this enters your nasal passage and goes up to your brain, how is it that it creates the kind of destruction it creates? What is the distinction there? Simplify this for our viewers. What does this amoeba eating brain really do to your brain tissues?
So actually, the path is, this amoeba grows in water, and that water is usually fresh water, like a pond or swimming pool which is contaminated and which has a recently high temperature. That is the favorable environment. And the path to our body is through the nose. So whenever this water gets an entry with a high force, like when we jump into a water, or when we dive into, or when we swim, or through some measures we push the water into our nasal cavity with a force. This liquid or water with the amoeba gets an entry into the brain. There is a part of the brain skull which is called the cribriform plate. That is our end of the nose, which is rather a weaker part of our skull. So there are nerves which pass from the nose to the brain through this area, and this amoeba contained in the water gets entry into the brain directly through this cribriform plate, and that is how this amoeba gets entry, and then they attack the brain. So all the inflammation, all the changes they bring
So
to
it's
the
your
brain.
immune system's response that causes inflammation, that leads to excessive fluid to your brain, and that perhaps leads to a situation where a patient or someone who is battling this horrible amoeba starts getting seizures. You have all of that playing out on your brain essentially. Thank you for simplifying that, Dr. Shami. Tell us also a little bit about the role of chlorination, for instance, in swimming pools, or how you can disinfect these freshwater bodies. What can be done really? Because right now, going by the number, this certainly is a worry. And like you said, this could slowly spread to other parts of the country as well, or perhaps even has.
Yeah, that's the most important question which we should answer and which should make the people more sensitized about this issue. Usually this happens only from contaminated water. That is what we believe. And the easiest method to prevent this infection is by keeping the water clean and chlorinated. So any swimming pool, before we swim, we have to ensure that the pool is chlorinated. And the people who maintain the swimming pools, they should demonstrate the amount of chlorine contained. And it should not be restricted to these ponds and swimming pools. Even our house or residences, the wells, the tanks, everything is included. So we should have a habit of cleaning our tanks regularly, and we should keep the well water also chlorinated. So a sufficient chlorination is enough to prevent the growth of this amoeba, and that should definitely prevent the spread of further infections.
Dr. Sameer, before we let you go, and busy days for you, so we'll not take too much of your time, but tell us a little bit about medicine as well. Tell us about the treatment in place. Tell us why is it that the survival rate is so low when a person catches this infection, and when prescribed an antifungal or anti-cancer medicine, what are the long-term consequences if a patient does survive this?
Yeah, again, another important issue which we are facing now. So we have a multiple drugs which have some sort of anti-amoebal effects, and most of these drugs are tested outside the body. So we don't have much literature from all over the world. Even the developed countries have a very minimum literature to give us about the anti-amoebic drugs and their efficiency. So what we do is all the drugs they have given, the government has already put forward a guideline to treat this amoeba. So we follow this one. That has a combination of drugs, which, as you told, some of them are antibiotics, some of them are anti-amoebal, directly anti-fungal. Everything is included. And one of the most important drugs is called this amphotericin, which we have been using as an anti-fungal for quite long duration. And we combine these drugs, and whenever we get an information from our microbiology side that they see an amoeba, immediately we start them on this. It's actually a cocktail. And we then monitor the patients, and luckily now we have many patients improving with this treatment, and compared to even US literature, many paper from United States show around 97% mortality in Naegleria, but luckily maybe because we are starting this treatment early, we are having a mortality now less than 50%.
But it's a long road ahead, and really hoping that
Yes.
some miracle comes our way and we're not finding ourselves
And
in a
about the
situation.
long-term complications, the people who have survived, we are not seeing any further complications. They are back to life and normally.
But how
And,
long is the recovery period? So if at all...
The time is quite long. We have a minimum treatment period of 1 month. We are treating for 28 days. That's a minimum. And there are patients who are still with us for more than 3 months.
Dr. Sameer, thank you so much for simplifying the story, for telling us about the several aspects that need to be considered if at all you're exposed to this amoeba. Thank you for joining us this morning on The Breakfast Club. We head into a very quick break. On the other side, we will be joined by an author in our studio who's written life is a battlefield, but in a very unique way. She's picked up from the Bhagavad Gita and she's addressed people's concerns around modern challenges. Coming up next is that all-important conversation. We'll be right back.
Moving on, the big story we're tracking from the national capital, the Delhi BMW crash that killed Finance Ministry officer Navjot Singh, getting murkier by the hour. Accused driver Gaganpreet Kaur has been arrested and has been sent to 2-day judicial custody. Blood sample report of the accused has now been reported to be negative for alcohol. Remember, the accused has filed a bail application and the hearing is set for September 17th. Meanwhile, Delhi police senior officials have said that the statement of Gaganpreet's husband is yet to be recorded and teams will further corroborate statements with evidence gathered, CCTV footages and statements of the witnesses as well. Police sources tell CNN News 18, confirming the key link that Gaganpreet's father, Javinder Singh, is a former director of the New Life Hospital, which basically is now fueling suspicions that the fact that the accused took the injured to a faraway hospital, the New Life Hospital, was indeed deliberate.
जो पूरा हादसा है, मैं इसकी पूरे बारीकी जानना चाहता हूँ, किस तरह से हादसा हुआ, किस तरह से इस मामले की तफ्तीश हुई और आखिरकार आरोपी को गिरफ्तार किया गया।
ये जो इंसिडेंट है ये कल का है, अराउंड 1:30 के आसपास, 1:30 बजे के आसपास का इंसिडेंट था। बट जो कॉल आती है हमारे पास वो थोड़ा लेट आती है, 2:20 के आसपास। हमारी इमीडिएटली टीम पहुंचती है ग्राउंड पे, उनको पता चलता है कि ट्रैफिक जाम की कॉल थी, बट यहाँ पे तो एक एक्सीडेंट हुआ है। एक्सीडेंट होने के बाद हम उसकी जो नियर बाय CCTV फुटेज है उनको एनालाइज करते हैं, क्राइम टीम को भेजते हैं, अपनी FSL टीम को भेजते हैं, जो भी एविडेंसेज हैं उसको कलेक्ट करने के लिए, जो साइट है और जो मोटर व्हीकल्स हैं उनका इंस्पेक्शन कराने के लिए। इवनिंग में उनका जहाँ पे GTB हॉस्पिटल था वहाँ से हमारे पास कॉल आती है कि इनको यहाँ पे एडमिट कराया गया है दिल्ली कैंट केस के अंदर। तो हमारे IO साहब वहाँ जाते हैं, वहाँ जाके जो विक्टिम है उनका भी स्टेटमेंट लिया जाता है एक और हॉस्पिटल से जहाँ पे उनको रेफ़र कर दिया गया था, और इमीडिएटली FIR उसके अंदर रजिस्टर करा दी जाती है। जो CCTV फुटेज है हमने उसमें प्रिजर्व करा दिया है। आज मॉर्निंग में जो एक्यूज़ है गगनप्रीत, उनको वहाँ से डिस्चार्ज कर दिया गया था हॉस्पिटल से। उनको हम लेके जो भी अपनी कार्रवाई होती है उसमें हमने मेडिकल करा दिया है, कोर्ट के सामने प्रोड्यूस कर दिया है। उनकी जो स्टेटमेंट लिखनी थी वो भी हमने कर दी है। तो मोस्टली हमारी तरफ से जो तफ्तीश है वो भी जारी है, बट प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन तो इसमें ख़त्म हो गई है। जो हम इन्फॉर्मेशन ले सकते थे वो सारी अभी तक अवेलेबल है। फर्दर आगे अगर जो कुछ नया एविडेंसेस आता है तो उस पर काम करेंगे। और जो एक हॉस्पिटल है जहाँ पे ले जाया गया, जिसके ऊपर एलिगेशंस भी लग रहे थे कि उन्होंने हेल्प नहीं करा, उनकी CCTV फुटेज भी हमने मंगा लिया है। उनका भी जो अगर कुछ ऐसा रोल निकलेगा कि उन्होंने हेल्प नहीं करा या डिले करा तो उनका भी अकॉर्डिंगली हम करेंगे।
जब हम FIR पढ़ते हैं जो 10 घंटे के बाद रजिस्टर होती है, इंसिडेंट है 1:30 बजे का, FIR हो रही है रात को 11:30 बजे, उसका जो भी वर्जन है FIR का वो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के भी अगेंस्ट है, उसके खिलाफ है, कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट कर रहा है, पूरा वर्जन ही कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट कर रहा है। अगर रैश एंड नेग्लिजेंट ड्राइविंग से किसी की डेथ है और कंट्री में वो बेलेबल ऑफेंस है, फिर वो बेलेबल ही है। आप उसको नॉन बेलेबल घुमा फिरा के कोई और सेक्शन ऐड करके करें, वो बड़ा अनफॉर्चुनेट हो जाता है। गाड़ी जो थी है BMW, वही पूरी टर्टल है। गाड़ी के अंदर जितने भी सवार हैं, हस्बैंड वाइफ बच्चे, वो भी गाड़ी के अंदर हैं। एयर बैग्स खुले हुए हैं, उनकी भी चोट लगी है। मुझे लग रहा है कि जो वर्जन FIR का है या IO साहब का है, कोर्ट में 2 दिन का वो हो गया है, JC हो गई है, JC
2 दिन का JC हुआ,
2 दिन की JC हो गई है। हमने बेल एप्लीकेशन फाइल कर दी है, बेल एप्लीकेशन की हियरिंग परसों।
So the key issue in this case is whether there was any intention on the part of the accused to delay taking the injured to the nearby hospital and instead take them to a hospital far away because it was connected to their family, and therefore try and maybe bury the case. So that is the big question. Why take the victim to a hospital which was 19 to 20 kilometers away? Now, this is the route from the site of the accident to the New Life Hospital, where the injured was taken, the finance ministry official and his wife. Of course, the official has succumbed. The wife has been undergoing treatment. So you can see this is a 21-kilometer stretch. And you can imagine 21 kilometers in there.
Okay, we now move on to our person of interest this morning on the Breakfast Club. We're joined in our studio by Priya Arora. She's an author, survivor and a student of Vedanta. A new book, Life is a Battlefield, draws on the Bhagavad Gita to explore how its wisdom can help us deal with stress, anxiety and the challenges of modern life. Far from a traditional commentary, it's about applying age-old lessons to the struggles people face today. So let's quickly go across to the lady joining us in the studio. Good morning, ma'am. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, yes. Thank you
Miss
for having
Arora,
me.
the name is so intriguing in itself. Life is a battlefield. Now, we all do know life is a battlefield indeed. But what inspired you to come up with this book, and in a way that we've seen this beautiful blend of tradition and modern?
So this book is about what we are all looking for in life, and that is happiness. So if there's one thing that every single human being wants, no matter where they are in life, can be the richest person, the poorest person, in the end you want happiness. So everything we do in life, the money we want to earn, the house we want to have, the relationships we seek, is all to get happiness. And this book is about how to achieve that. And sorry, it's not, it doesn't tell you the steps to buying a good house or the steps to earning a lot of money. That's not what it's about. It's about the mindset.
Can you give us an example? So, for instance, someone who's going through a tough phase in their life falls back on a book like this. What are they likely to draw out of it? What are they likely to get inspired from? And how do they pick their cues? Because like you said, the solution in itself is not penned as is.
Exactly.
It's the solution that you're going to have to find through examples that have been brought about by you through your writing. So give us an example.
Right. See, it's not me. This is the wisdom of Vedanta. So it's and it's the wisdom that has been in our land for thousands of years. And it's not a religious wisdom, just to make it clear. This is something that is applicable to everybody. So, a lot of our problems are due to how we view them. We don't think of it that way, but if you think about it, problems come from three sources. The first one is our own mental situation and how we view things in life. The second one is from outside occurrences, like, you're walking down the street, a dog bites you. You can't control that, but it's come to you from outside. And the third is what we call acts of God, what insurance calls acts of God, where suddenly there's a flood and your house is washed away. So of these three, which is the one that is the most in your life? It's not the dog biting you, because that may happen once, it may never happen. Floods, fire, acts of God may or may not happen. They do happen to people, but not to everyone. But the thing that happens to us all the time, every day, is what's going on in our own mind. So logically, if we can manage our mind, it's about mind management. So if you manage your mind, then you manage problems better. That's all it's about. It's very simple, but managing the mind is difficult.
And where did you get the inspiration to pick on our ancient texts, our Vedic texts, and then bring about this mindset change that you're looking at ensuring that reaches people, right? So how is it that you decided to do this via the Bhagavad Gita or the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, for instance? I'm sure you've picked up a little bit of all.
Yes.
Why not, as we see a lot of people who are asking or training minds to achieve more, strive more, overcome challenges, why are we looking at this one method adopted by you? What's the story there?
The thing is, it's not different. You can do all those other things, pursue your goals, do whatever you do in your regular life, and do it in a way that you get peace from it. See, today's world is one of anxiety. We are always on the treadmill. We never step off. And frankly, digitization of everything has not helped.
Yeah,
It's made us
it more difficult.
More difficult for us. So what is that helps you handle all this? So this book is not about going into sannyas or abdicating everything that you're doing and going into retirement of some kind, which people misunderstand. The Bhagavad Gita is about handling life and in the thick of action. The whole lesson that Sri Krishna gives Arjun is on the battlefield. It's in the midst of action.
When he finds himself in a difficult spot,
he finds himself in a
he's
difficult...
slightly panicky.
Yes,
That's when
he has a panic attack and he is in a crisis situation. And that happens to us in life. So my inspiration for this is from my own life, because I found tremendous peace from a lot of problems. You know, I'm a parent of a special needs child, which is very challenging. I've had health issues with aggressive cancer. So, you know, these kind of things come to everybody. But if you have cultivated the mindset to be able to deal with them, then you can go through these without stress. So it's my personal journey, and I felt if it helped me, it can help others.
Can I ask you a very personal question? At what age did you read the Ramayana or Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, got you to writing something,
Right.
picking up on those thoughts and those learnings? Because you've been very vocal about how many of your readers, if not readers, followers on social media are youngsters. So
Yes.
typically people of the age 18 to 25, 30.
35, 18 to 35
18
actually.
to 35, lovely. So, you know, how is it that you relate with that generation? That's not necessarily just Gen Z, it's a lot of millennials too.
Yes.
But what is it that you, through your content or writing, are looking at in targeting that audience? And I don't mean targeting in a way that you're, you know, wanting to
Yeah.
strike a chord with them,
Yeah.
but just to be more relatable. Why do you think that one generation or one age group is so very crucial when it comes to imparting this kind of knowledge
Yes.
or lessons?
Because this is a manual for life. See, our ancient wisdom is something that is very practical. It is not religious. It's not telling you to do some puja and say some mantras. That's not what it's telling you. It's telling you how to handle your life so you are more fulfilled. That's the whole purpose. So when do you need to open a user manual? When you get the product, right? You don't open the user manual when the product's life is over.
Yeah.
So if you think of it, I wish I knew this when I was 16 years old. I waited till middle age. Now in your 50s is not the time to start this, because better late than never, but ideally you should have this knowledge under your belt when you're starting off life, because then life's problems won't hassle you. And that's what we want. And I think the reason why it appeals maybe to 18 to 35-year-olds, because they are at that stage. They have their life ahead of them. At 50, at retirement stage, 50 plus, that's not the stage to start, figuring out how you're going to handle your life. Then you have to start thinking of how to wind down.
And this is also a reminder that not all solutions lie in your chat GPT.
Exactly.
There are those who, from their personal experience, written something thoughtful which may help you as well. So this is just another reminder, because everyone's just going to AI now.
Yes.
For comfort, for suggestions, for therapy.
Yes.
That's not where all your solutions lie.
Yes.
But Ms. Aruna, also tell us a little bit about whether or not you went through a writer's block phase. How much time did it take to come up with this book? This is your second, and I
Yes.
believe another one is on its way.
Well, yes, I'm quite prolific now, because it comes from within. Writing is not something you can for me at least, I can't sit down and have a time, I'm going to write from 9 to 5. That doesn't work. You write when the inspiration comes, and the inspiration can come anytime. So, sometimes actually it'll come when I'm outside somewhere and I can't sit down and write then. So what I do is I take my phone, and in the notepad section, I jot down what I feel, the inspiration that has come to me. And then I go back and when I have the time expand on it. Sometimes it comes in at night. You know, sometimes early in the morning, first thing I wake up, I think, oh, I should write about this. And then I do. I mean, not write right away, I put it down, jot it down. So writing is a very inspirational thing. And I think that should be for most authors, but for me especially, it comes from within. So these books are all, they've all come from my personal experience, which I felt so deeply. And the words, in fact, my Rama book actually just spilled out. I didn't really, and it happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful opportunity I had all the time to sit and write because everything was shut down. And
that may have just played the biggest role.
the
fact that you were all by yourself through that.
Yes, and the thing is, I didn't feel lonely and I didn't feel any anxiety because I was so busy writing. I took that, and I wrote it quite fast because I had so much time to do so. So,
Was there any one moment when you decided that you're going to pen your thoughts down, you're going to take forward the messages that you have accumulated in your mind that have helped you grow as a person? You know, that one moment of feeling the urgency to pass on that wisdom to the world. Can you
talk
tell
about
us?
that moment?
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Because it's not easy. The moment you think that I'm going to write, it may sound big, it may look promising, but it's not easy to literally
Yeah.
sit down and get to writing. So what was that one moment that changed it for you?
you know, when you feel something very passionately, actually it's easy to write because then you don't have to think. And I just put down my thoughts as they come. So when I write, I don't write perfectly. I just put down my thoughts and my feelings exactly as they come. And then later I'll go back and I'll revise it and polish it and say, okay, this could be put better. But writing, the reason why I wrote both the books, the Rama book especially, is because I realized that Sri Rama is a perfect exemplar of Vedic philosophy. So whatever Sri Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita, which is Vedic philosophy, you see enacted in the Ramayana. And so he's like a living example of
Also
Vedic
more
philosophy.
relatable then.
More relatable. So I'll give you an example of it. So in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the things that that Sri Krishna says is very dangerous is anger. Because in anger, you can do anything. At that moment, you've actually lost your mind. You're not in your senses. So even people who are normally would never do something like that or say something outrageous, if they're angry, will go ahead and do it because they're not in their mind. So Bhagavad Gita says that this is something we need to really control. And you see in the Ramayana, and this is Valmiki's Ramayana, and the other Ramayanas, they don't show this. They don't humanize Sri Ram. They portray him as a god. But in Valmiki's Ramayana, he's portrayed as a human being. And his human side is very, very tender and appealing. So in that, he gets very, very angry on two occasions. One occasion is when Sita is kidnapped. And he's going crazy, he's looking through that forest, you know, running helter-skelter. Where is she? He's going so crazy that he's asking the trees, you know, where is she? He's asking the river, Godavari, where is she? The deer and the animals, and he says, I have to find her. And in this rage, he gets into a rage. First he's anxious, and you know, first when you're anxious, then that sometimes transforms into anger. So he gets into a rage, and then he says, I will burn down the world if I don't find her. He gets so angry.
Which is again very
And
relatable, right?
Very relatable.
People feel
because
that in different
exactly,
ways, especially in current times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Lakshman says to him, no, what are you saying? Don't, you know, you are such a wonderful person, you have such a great character. How can you say something like this? Immediately he calms down. So the greatness is that, yes, we all get angry, but not to act on that emotion. You have to be able to rein it in. So he's showing you that yes, there are times when you will be pushed. You'll be triggered to the point where you know, lose control of yourself. You're not yourself. But even in that moment, you can count to 10 and pull back and not act on that anger. Because when we act in any emotional state, that action is 100% going to be the wrong action.
And we've heard this so many times. Our parents, for instance, keep repeating this to us, that you are allowed to feel heightened emotions, but don't act on those emotions.
Exactly.
Wait for the right time to act on emotions. And I think that's what this book is also all about. How do you control your emotions? How are you going to not be as impulsive as your immediate triggers are asking you to?
Yes.
Ms. Arora, I want to end this conversation on a very positive note for the future writers of this country, across the world, everyone who's watching this. Tell us how this entire landscape has changed. For instance, you've written 2 books already, wanting to write more, possibly at it. We don't know what stage we're talking about right now, but the publishing scenario, etc. How is this playing out for the generation looking at writing with all the aspirations, especially given the way it's getting digitalized so heavily?
So, when I was growing up, we read books. We didn't have TV. TV just came actually when I was a young person.
We didn't have Kindle.
And we didn't have Kindle, we didn't have it. So our greatest joy was to go and buy books and read them. And we actually read them from cover to cover. The challenge today is that worldwide, people are not reading. So even if we buy a book, we skim through it or we read certain bits. But it's very rare for people to read from cover to cover, the way we used to. So that is a challenge for writers. So what we have to do really is use social media to talk about the subject and then maybe encourage people. Once they see it on social media, then it encourages people to read. But it can't be the other way around like it used to be, that you write a book, there's a review in the newspaper, and then the people go buy it. Now the online world is very significant. So that is the change, if you ask me.
It's also what our parents, grandparents used to say. Do not let go of the habit of reading a newspaper, for instance. There are a lot of other pluses that come with it, your diction, your vocabulary, etc., which I think people are losing out on. But thank you so much for that very wonderful conversation. All the very best for this book. We're
Thank you.
eagerly waiting on the next one too. Thank you for joining us on The Breakfast
Thank you
Club.
for having me. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we shift our focus now back to Goa. Goa's beaches and lanes are watched over by a force dressed in pink. They're women police officers who not only patrol tourist hotspots but also carry body cams and translation tools to handle complaints in real time. Ashriya spent the day with Inspector Reema Naik and her entire team to see how this pink force really works in Goa. Take a look at the special report.
We're at the heart of Panjim, the most famous destination in Goa. And how can we cover a tourist destination like Goa without talking about security as a concern? I'm standing here right next to an all-women unit police force. Think of it as policing with a pink punch. We're also joined by Inspector Reema Naik. She will be talking to us a little bit about patrolling, about the daily duties and all that it takes to keep the children and the tourists safe on the streets. Inspector Reema Naik, thank you so much for speaking to CNN News 18. Ma'am, my first question to you comes from the basics. What are the most common kinds of cases that you witness in Goa, which is obviously one of the biggest tourist destinations in a country like India?
The type of cases like mostly we have rape cases, sexual harassment cases, outrage of modesty, eve teasing cases.
Okay.
Sometimes we even come across kidnapping cases, kidnapping of children.
Okay. There is a spike in the number of cyber crimes that take place, cyberbullying for that matter.
Yes, and the most vulnerable in all this are children, because they do not understand what are the risks they are taking, like being on social media, the pictures, the facts they share about themselves. Basically, if you go to see, they are being tracked by all these people around. Mostly what we do is we click a picture. Say suppose we go for any activity outside, we go for a picnic and we click pictures and we immediately upload it on social media. Our youngsters do it more often. So the person who is actually wanting to target you, he has an idea about what you are doing throughout your day, where you are moving. So basically we are leaking out a movement to the public or the person who wants to target us.
Reema ji, my final question to you. You know, when you talk about trust, when you talk about believing in the police, a huge part of that has to do with proof and accountability. Speaking of that, the government of Goa, along with the help of the police department, they have launched the initiative of body cameras, the use of body cameras. So my question to you is, what is the idea and the innovation behind it?
Yeah, I will say that making use of this body camera records all the incidents, all the instances, whatever happens at that point of time. So whatever has happened, anybody comes up with any allegation, there is a proof on the record because it is audio video recorded, and then safety for police also, and the truth is brought out from this. Like the incident however it happened is brought out in front of everybody. We can give justice through that. Tomorrow nobody can deny saying that yeah, this thing never happened, I never said this, and this was not how it was.
Correct. So there's proof of what has taken place typically. We talk about the perfect blend of technology in security, and we have the perfect device for that. This is the body cam that's introduced by the Goa government, and Inspector Reema Naik is here to explain to us. Ma'am, can you tell us how does this particular device work?
This is a body worn cameras issued to every police officer.
Yeah.
Okay, we just start it, we put it on, and we'll press the recording button on this.
Okay. So this is typically placed on the body?
On the body
Okay.
of the... I will just demonstrate how it is worn also.
Yeah.
And we start the video recording. Okay, the video recording has already started. It will go on the shoulder.
Okay.
Once it's worn,
Yeah.
it is at a height of another person. So whenever we are speaking to any person in front of us
Yeah.
or explaining anything to them, their face is covered into the camera.
क्या कर सकते हैं जब किसी को कोंकणी नहीं आती या मराठी नहीं आती, क्या कर सकते हैं आप हमें बता सकते हैं?
हाँ, उसके लिए ना ये भाषिनी ऐप लॉन्च किया है. उसमें ना 12 इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस हैं और 2 इंटरनेशनल लैंग्वेजेस.
Okay,
तो
okay.
इसमें इनकी जो लैंग्वेज है ना वो उसमें कन्वर्ट हो जाती है.
Okay. So you're basically trying to say that this bridges the language barrier
Yes.
between the tourists and the locals.
Okay, from Goa, we now move on to Jammu and Kashmir, to the lush orchids of Kashmir. Young farmers are rewriting their future through apple cultivation. While apples promise prosperity, landslides and highway closures are posing a serious challenge. Ishan Vani has got this covered for you, gets us this ground report. Take a look.
Amid Kashmir's famed apple belt, a young woman stands as a symbol of change. Afshan Rashid has transformed once barren land into a thriving orchard, proving how innovation and perseverance can reshape lives. What began as simple vegetable farming for a family has evolved into high-density apple cultivation, a cornerstone of Kashmir's economy. With more than 2 million tons produced annually, apples are not just fruit here, they are a livelihood. High-density orchards are boosting yields, generating jobs and bringing long-term sustainability across the valley.
This is a 4-hectare farm और एक 4-hectare farm पे पूरे पे ट्रेडिशनल एप्पल्स ग्रो करना इज़ अ टफ टास्क गिवन द सिचुएशन कि जो हम देख रहे हैं द नंबर ऑफ डिजीज़ दैट आर कमिंग इनटू द ट्रेडिशनल ऑर्चिड्स. तो उनकी मैनेजमेंट, उनका क्रॉप हार्वेस्ट, उनकी क्रॉप क्वालिटी बहुत ज़्यादा कंप्रोमाइज़ हो गई है ओवर द टाइम बिकॉज ऑफ क्लाइमेटिक चेंज. ऑल्दो एप्पल के लिए एक स्पेसिफिक ऑल्टीट्यूड की ज़रूरत तो है ही है, लेकिन जो मतलब इसमें डिजीज़ आई हैं ट्रेडिशनल वैराइटीज़ में, विद टाइम इट्स गेटिंग डिफ़िकल्ट टू मैनेज दैट. सो एक 4-hectare फार्म को रन करने के लिए टू मेक इट ट्रेडिशनल फुल्ली वाज नॉट एन फीजिबल ऑप्शन. दैट्स वाई हमने इस फार्म को डिवाइड किया इनटू डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज. एक कैटेगरी है जहां आपको सिर्फ ट्रेडिशनल वैराइटीज़ मिलेंगी और एक पोर्शन है इस फार्म का जिसको हमने इनटू HD कन्वर्ट किया.
The journey from sapling to harvest takes an entire year, but when autumn arrives, the valley is awash in red as orchards brim with ripe fruit. Kashmir accounts for over 75% of India's apple production, and with favorable market prices, the industry is set to grow. From these orchards, apples are boxed and shipped to markets across India. Renowned worldwide for their quality, Kashmiri apples are the backbone of the region's economy. This year's bumper harvest has brought joy, but also frustration. Frequent closure of Srinagar-Jammu National Highway have stranded thousands of trucks, causing fruit spoilage and heavy loss to farmers.
हमारी मंडी का हाल देखा है अभी यहाँ आप देखो सड़कों पे माल अभी है हमारी ट्रांसपोर्ट सहूलियात बिल्कुल नहीं है यहाँ गाड़ियाँ नहीं आ रही हैं बाहर से जम्मू से और किराया इस टाइम आसमान छू रहा है तो इसलिए हमने आज यहाँ एक पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट की कॉल दी है.
To ease this crisis, a dedicated train has been launched carrying apples out of the valley and offering farmers a vital lifeline. But growers are demanding more trains to meet urgent market deadlines.
आने वाले कुछ दिनों में एक बहुत ही बेहतर परिवहन की सुविधा रेलवे ने प्रारंभ की है. मैं रेलवे भारतीय रेल को धन्यवाद देता हूँ और मुझे लगता है कि इससे जहाँ जम्मू कश्मीर का एकीकरण होगा वहीं कम लागत में किसानों का सामान देश के दूसरे बाजार तक पहुँच जाएगा.
Kashmir's apple industry is a cornerstone for the region's economy, with thousands of people directly and indirectly associated with it for their livelihood. But it has also been facing challenges. The frequent cloud bursts leading to the closure of highway had disrupted the supply chain, and result is that several apples have rotten on the highway. But the government is now creating avenues such as running special trains so that for the first time cargo trains can go with apples in them to the outside market and could reach well on time. In Kashmir, apples are more than a harvest. They are stories of resilience, tradition, and the enduring beauty of the valley. With Bashir Lone in Pulwama, Ishanwani from CNN News 18.
In his 11-year tenure, PM Modi has held 12 exclusive interactions with News 18.
आपका प्रधानमंत्री, आपका प्रधान सेवक या आपका नरेंद्र मोदी कहीं पर भी हो, कुछ भी हो, लेकिन आखिर इंसान तो है. सबका साथ, सबका विकास. नेटवर्क 18 टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं. देश को आधुनिकता की तरफ पे ले जाना है. ये तो ट्रेलर है, मुझे तो और आगे जाना है.
अब धर्म के आधार पर देश के टुकड़े नहीं होने चाहिए.
मैं ध्यान करता हूँ, मैं ध्यान को जीता हूँ.
एक मेगा एक्सक्लूसिव इंटरव्यू
इंडिया अलायंस नजर नहीं आएगा. मेरी पूरी तपस्या या मेरा फोकस देश बने इसके लिए है. जिसको किसी ने नहीं पूछा उसको मोदी ने पूजा है. पूरे विश्व में भारत के इलेक्शन कमीशन का जय जयकार होता है और ये मोदी की गारंटी है.
Conversations with Modi, only on News 18. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Moving on, the big story we're tracking from the national capital, the Delhi BMW crash that killed Finance Ministry officer Navjot Singh, getting murkier by the hour. Accused driver Gaganpreet Kaur has been arrested and has been sent to 2-day judicial custody. Blood sample report of the accused has now been reported to be negative for alcohol. Remember, the accused has filed a bail application and the hearing is set for September 17th. Meanwhile, Delhi police senior officials have said that the statement of Gaganpreet's husband is yet to be recorded and teams will further corroborate statements with evidence gathered, CCTV footages and statements of the witnesses as well. Police sources tell CNN News 18, confirming the key link that Gaganpreet's father, Javinder Singh, is a former director of the New Life Hospital, which basically is now fueling suspicions that the fact that the accused took the injured to a faraway hospital, the New Life Hospital, was indeed deliberate.
जो पूरा हादसा है, मैं इसकी पूरे बारीकी जानना चाहता हूँ, किस तरह से हादसा हुआ, किस तरह से इस मामले की तफ्तीश हुई और आखिरकार आरोपी को गिरफ्तार किया गया।
ये जो इंसिडेंट है ये कल का है, अराउंड 1:30 के आसपास, 1:30 बजे के आसपास का इंसिडेंट था। बट जो कॉल आती है हमारे पास वो थोड़ा लेट आती है, 2:20 के आसपास। हमारी इमीडिएटली टीम पहुंचती है ग्राउंड पे, उनको पता चलता है कि ट्रैफिक जाम की कॉल थी, बट यहाँ पे तो एक एक्सीडेंट हुआ है। एक्सीडेंट होने के बाद हम उसकी जो नियर बाय CCTV फुटेज है उनको एनालाइज करते हैं, क्राइम टीम को भेजते हैं, अपनी FSL टीम को भेजते हैं, जो भी एविडेंसेज हैं उसको कलेक्ट करने के लिए, जो साइट है और जो मोटर व्हीकल्स हैं उनका इंस्पेक्शन कराने के लिए। इवनिंग में उनका जहाँ पे GTB हॉस्पिटल था वहाँ से हमारे पास कॉल आती है कि इनको यहाँ पे एडमिट कराया गया है दिल्ली कैंट केस के अंदर। तो हमारे IO साहब वहाँ जाते हैं, वहाँ जाके जो विक्टिम है उनका भी स्टेटमेंट लिया जाता है एक और हॉस्पिटल से जहाँ पे उनको रेफ़र कर दिया गया था, और इमीडिएटली FIR उसके अंदर रजिस्टर करा दी जाती है। जो CCTV फुटेज है हमने उसमें प्रिजर्व करा दिया है। आज मॉर्निंग में जो एक्यूज़ है गगनप्रीत, उनको वहाँ से डिस्चार्ज कर दिया गया था हॉस्पिटल से। उनको हम लेके जो भी अपनी कार्रवाई होती है उसमें हमने मेडिकल करा दिया है, कोर्ट के सामने प्रोड्यूस कर दिया है। उनकी जो स्टेटमेंट लिखनी थी वो भी हमने कर दी है। तो मोस्टली हमारी तरफ से जो तफ्तीश है वो भी जारी है, बट प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन तो इसमें ख़त्म हो गई है। जो हम इन्फॉर्मेशन ले सकते थे वो सारी अभी तक अवेलेबल है। फर्दर आगे अगर जो कुछ नया एविडेंसेस आता है तो उस पर काम करेंगे। और जो एक हॉस्पिटल है जहाँ पे ले जाया गया, जिसके ऊपर एलिगेशंस भी लग रहे थे कि उन्होंने हेल्प नहीं करा, उनकी CCTV फुटेज भी हमने मंगा लिया है। उनका भी जो अगर कुछ ऐसा रोल निकलेगा कि उन्होंने हेल्प नहीं करा या डिले करा तो उनका भी अकॉर्डिंगली हम करेंगे।
जब हम FIR पढ़ते हैं जो 10 घंटे के बाद रजिस्टर होती है, इंसिडेंट है 1:30 बजे का, FIR हो रही है रात को 11:30 बजे, उसका जो भी वर्जन है FIR का वो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के भी
Okay, well, now we bring to you a special section on financial markets. Let's talk about GIFT Nifty, how it is indicating a stable opening for Indian stock markets. US stock markets closed lower ahead of the interest rate decision by the Federal Reserve. Asian stock markets were mixed as investors await the Fed's rate move later today. And gold prices hold at record highs as traders await economic data. And moving on to sectors in particular, gold loans have been a beneficiary of firm gold prices. The decline in availability of unsecured loans has also helped push gold loans. The rise in gold prices has been a boon for asset quality as well. Can the sector shine even if rising gold prices reverse? That's a question that remains. So log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's gold loan lenders and other actionable insights on markets. It is the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control. Well, we're halfway through the week. There's lots more lined up still on the Breakfast Club. So tune in tomorrow at 8. We'll see you tomorrow with yet another very interesting topic. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in just a bit.
In his 11-year tenure, PM Modi has held 12 exclusive interactions with News 18.
आपका प्रधानमंत्री, आपका प्रधान सेवक या आपका नरेंद्र मोदी कहीं पर भी हो, कुछ भी हो, लेकिन आखिर इंसान तो है। सबका साथ, सबका विकास। नेटवर्क 18 टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। देश को आधुनिकता की तरफ भी ले जाना है। ये तो ट्रेलर है, मुझे तो और आगे जाना है।
अब धर्म के आधार पर देश के टुकड़े नहीं होने चाहिए।
मैं ध्यान करता हूं, इसे नहीं, मैं ध्यान को जीता हूं।
एक मेगा एक्सक्लूसिव इंटरव्यू।
इंडिया अलायंस नजर नहीं आएगा, इसलिए मेरी पूरी तपस्या या मेरा फोकस देश बने इसके लिए है। जिसको किसी ने नहीं पूछा, उसको मोदी ने पूजा है। पूरे विश्व में भारत के इलेक्शन कमीशन का जय जयकार होता है और ये मोदी की गारंटी है।
Conversations with Modi, only on News 18. Brought to you by
Prime Minister Modi turned 75 today. 11 years into his tenure, the political brand he has built rests on one central idea: delivery welfare schemes rolled out at scale, digital platforms designed to cut out leakages, and a decisive push into frontier technologies like semiconductors and artificial intelligence define what his supporters call Modi Ki Guarantee. It is an assurance that a government scheme will reach the intended beneficiary, that middlemen will be cut out, and that welfare will be tied to dignity rather than charity. This model has left its imprint in rural kitchens, in bank accounts across villages and towns, and in toilets built under a sanitation drive that redefined public health. As PM Modi turns 75 today, his brand of governance is defined not by a single reform, but by a pattern. Welfare designed for scale, delivery designed for speed, and innovation designed for future sovereignty.
Jayem Sam Yudhi Spritah. I defeat those who fight against me in battle. The motto of India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, is not just etched on steel. It embodies the spirit of a new India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A new India where Atmanirbharta has become the core strategy in every arm of the military. A nation that has showcased its might and resolve to the world during Operation Sindoor. This is India that acts swiftly, decisively, and if challenged, knows exactly how to respond.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में भारत की सेना ने जो लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया था 100% अचीव किया। आतंकियों के आकाओं के घर में जाकर के 22 मिनट के भीतर भीतर ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के तहत
Good morning and a very warm welcome. Thanks for staying tuned to CNN News 18. I'm Prithween Valia. Let's first up begin with the day's top headlines. On the day of trade talks, Donald Trump, the US president, dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi, extends birthday wishes, says Prime Minister doing a tremendous job. Both leaders discuss India-US ties and Ukraine peace efforts. Prime Minister Modi turns 75 today. Wishes from across country pour in. Birthday marked by a nationwide blitz of events, welfare schemes and political fanfare. CPI Maoists announce to suspend armed struggle, call for peace talks with the central government. Government checking veracity of surrender offer. Vote chori charge haunts Congress. Karnataka High Court invalidates Malur MLA's election, orders EC to recount votes. Blame game erupts after former Pakistani cricketer Shahid Afridi praises Rahul Gandhi. BJP calls Rahul darling of Pakistan. In the meanwhile, Congress posts old picture of Anurag Thakur with Shahid Afridi. Charlie Kirk's accused assassin faces capital murder charge. Prosecutors seek death penalty. And while in yet another moment of bonhomie between the two leaders, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a phone call from US President Donald Trump for wishes on his birthday eve as he turns 75 today. The Prime Minister also voiced support for Donald Trump's peace efforts in the ongoing Ukraine conflict and stated, "We support your initiatives towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict." Those were his words. And then Donald Trump shared more about the interaction on Truth Social, called it a wonderful phone call with his friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He thanked the Prime Minister for his support on ending the Russia-Ukraine war. This was the first call between the two world leaders since the 17th of June. And do remember, before this, in the run-up to this call, we've seen how Donald Trump berated India over its Russian oil imports for the longest time. I do want to go across to my colleagues. Sanjay Suri joins us from Washington, D.C. Pallavi Ghosh, Aman Sharma, Payal Mehta are through with us this morning. Sanjay, can I begin with you? Tell us what you make of this warm gesture suddenly coming in from President Donald Trump. We've seen months of Donald Trump coming down heavily on India, criticizing India's trade relationship with the US, also criticizing the manner in which it's been importing Russian oil. All of that has been ongoing, and then comes this warm phone call. How do you look at this?
Well, it's very welcome and about time. We've had a chill in relations, and this really brings a new warmth into it. And it's like opening of a door that had been slammed shut for quite some time. This is a very important public indication of a new warmth and a new promise, really, that the hurdles that have come to stand between the US and India will now begin to be cleared away. They're not light hurdles, it will not happen in a hurry, but at least we have promise of an initiative to have a crack at those and get them out of the way. And this is not just symbolic, though the symbolism here is quite material. We also have substantive talks underway. The US Ambassador designate to India, Sergey Gore, told the Senate hearing that the talks are progressing over tariffs, and a resolution and an agreement could be just weeks away. So this is being underlined by substantive talks at the official level, and really this space is looking a lot more promising than it has for some time yet.
Oh yes, for the longest time we've in fact seen him cast New Delhi as complicit in prolonging the Russia-Ukraine war, and suddenly there's a change in tone that we're seeing, wherein he's thanking the Prime Minister for his efforts towards bringing an end to the conflict in Ukraine. Pallavi, would you want to pick on that? What do you think has changed? It can't just be the Prime Minister's 75th birthday. What do you make of this change in tone and tenor and stance suddenly coming in from the US President?
Well, I think this was expected at some point of time. It was coming, and I think that's the reason why the Indian reaction, the government's reaction, Christine, has always been very mellow, very mature, and extremely guarded as well. But Donald Trump, being a politician, also took his time, his moment, and that moment, of course, happens to be the Prime Minister's birthday. I would pick on